So just one more time. What do we want? Gender. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Gender. When do we want it? Now. Thank you. Good. Good afternoon. I would like to take out the time, of course, to say thank you to Pride Agenda, all the organizations involved in making Equality and Justice Day here a reality in Albany today. I would also like to say a special thank you to all those who give political service, community members, activists, allies, family members, and everyone who's contributing their presence here today fighting for equality and justice. Before I begin, I would like to read some very liberating words from a great author, Keith Boykin. He says, "It has taken me decades to begin to unapologetically stand up for my personhood, my individuality, my distinctiveness, my journey to understand that even my friends, my chosen family, can be unintentionally one's hope, repressive, immuring, antagonistic towards personal change and transformation, which is ultimately what I believe life is all about. With my own brush of depressions and thoughts of suicide, it taught me to in fact nurture my sense of mystery and curiosity about where it is that I am going as an individual, with particular emphasis on originality, integrity, courage, and honesty to myself on my particular odyssey. With very few friends, I've gladly chosen quality over quantity, and to endeavor to be clear, fair, and realistic about my expectations of others, recognizing my own actualization and affirmation are solely my responsibility." And when I read that passage, as Oprah Winfrey would say, I had that aha moment. This is the passage that liberated me to life, and I hope it did just that for you. Today I will talk about how nurturing individuality can be progressive and how enforcing conformity can be regressive at times. Now, I'm not saying the enemy is conformity. The issue is what side we conform to. Ideally, we want all people to conform to the idea that all humans have the right to live their lives as they see fit, without trespassing on the rights of others. I am mindful of the fact that it is a privilege and an honor to stand here with you today. I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and all the other anonymous extraordinaires who fought every single day to frame the picture of justice and freedom for all that will hang on the Capitol's wall. Just imagine if we can hang that picture on the wall. As a youth, it is infuriating to think that the government nurtures conformity instead of nurturing individuality. Many will counter-argue that and say, do not make assumptions or sensationalize a community. But what am I to think when I live in a state, that do not have bans on conversion therapy, also known as changing someone from being themselves, simply because we do not conform to the gender norms? Some of our state officials feel that they need an understanding on how this bill will help the LGBTQ community by having these laws in place that protects my brothers and sisters when simply pursuing housing, employment, and other essentials of life. If you don't know, well, here's a hint. They're simply being denied because of how they identify. It is also infuriating to think that 40% of general population who identify as homeless is our LGBTQIA youth. Alarming statistics shown that with conformity, you don't have to face these experiences. But to critique that more, 40% of our youth are on the street simply because they did not conform to the government and their parents' belief. When I turn on the news and at least 8 weeks into the beginning of the year, over 7 trans women of color were murdered. Our community is still waiting for justice. Even though we are at this revolutionary tipping point of trans visibility in media, that didn't keep Blake Brockington or Leah Alcorn and many others from taking their life. Oftentimes I've had the same feelings, that dying would be the best thing for me, because with no policies and protections put in place, I'm more likely to be unemployed, to be homeless, and if I'm lucky, I could live in a low-income neighborhood and struggle with a drug addiction. It saddens me to think I live in a state that has no state or local protections for people like myself. Oftentimes, this made me feel that living in misery will be way easier than living as my authentic self, which is a woman. Understand, as I share this information, I'm a youth who understands firsthand what violence looks like towards the transgender community. Being placed in New York City's broken foster care system at the age of 18 months old, I experienced sexual violence, physical violence, mental violence, and emotional violence. I remember transitioning from the broken home into New York City streets and New York City subway system. At the age 14, I began to get a huge understanding that the intersections of my identity played a huge part to what my reality looks like. Now understand this, as I share this information, I'm no longer facing those adversities. But the harsh reality is that many youth in this state are facing those exact adversities. And so I understand that through individual commitment, our community participation, our determination for equal protection and justice, without fear or favor, we will lower these facts of life. It is for us to stand together with pride and confidence that we will succeed the first step, which is passing gender, banning harmful conversion efforts, securing resources for homeless youth, health services for all, and making second parent adoption law more accessible and legalizing surrogacy. So let's create communities where those who conform to heteronormatives or those who don't have equal opportunities. And if we begin to understand that justice is not just visibility, justice is inequality. Thank you.